Gentlemen, great to have you here. Chris and Jerry, this is incredible. Of a Revolution. What you guys have done musically with this band has really been very, very powerful. And the sessions really at this stage is kind of about the business side of how did you guys put this all together? How did you meet? How did you even start in this industry playing music? What was your passion that drove you to play music? I'll start here, Chris. What was it like?
Well, so this is actually our 20-year anniversary. So I'll give you some of the abbreviated history here.
Yes, good.
But cut to the chase, our singer and I have been best friends since we were in kindergarten. And it was just the love of music that we discovered at an early age. He had an older brother who had a videotape from the 1985 tour of Genesis's world tour. And we would watch Phil Collins and the drummer Chester Thompson.
Chester Thompson, absolutely, dear friend of mine. Yeah, good guy.
Oh my God. Yeah. So they would do a drum solo, almost more than just a solo. It was like a drum duet, I think they called it. Yeah. And we would watch that every day after school. And so it was things like that that just kind of bonded us around music, and we would find things. A few years later, we saw Pearl Jam on MTV Unplugged, and that without a doubt was the catalyst that was like, we want to start a band. So we started our first band in 8th grade and played the 8th grade talent show. We reformed a couple years ago. O.A.R. officially formed in 1996 in Rockville, Maryland in high school. And there was this moment of us going off to college, and are we going to go separate ways? We really feel like there's something here. If we can go to school together, if we can go to Ohio State, the biggest school in the country, there's a thriving music scene. If we can break into that, we've got a real shot. And also, Napster was just starting to explode.
Absolutely.
And all college kids in the dorm rooms were starting to trade music, and our music started to get around. And we went to Ohio State. We met Jerry. It's like one of the first people there. And
that was around 2000.
That was 97. I played with him full time in 2000.
Okay.
But, our singer Mark was in my freshman orientation class. So we ended up running around Columbus that night together.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So from a very early spot, we thought, okay, we have to think about going to a place where there's like a hotbed of music. It wasn't LA, it wasn't New York. It still had a music scene. It was a place where we could get a good education, but we felt like we could break into the music scene. And very quickly we learned that we had to focus on making things happen for ourselves. We didn't have a manager. We didn't have touring history. So we show up in a new town and we're not going to be able to, it wasn't that we're not going to be able to, it was just the local promoters had never heard of us. They were not going to let us break into this music scene like we just thought it would happen magically. So we had to figure out ways for ourselves to play shows. And I think that's a good example of us early on going, okay, I didn't sit here thinking about the business side of music as a kid, but we started to kind of have to look into that. And so that was one side. The other side of it was our singer's older brother was a few years older than us. He was studying at University of Florida, kind of I guess, majoring in business. And he started kind of taking on the reins of managing us part-time, became full-time as the band started building. Very slowly, we started learning about every aspect of the business. And I think cut forward, this is how we kind of, were able to take what started in the basement to something that we could do regionally in Ohio, to grow it to become a full-time national touring band. And that started really not until 2001 did we start touring full-time, but we had laid the groundwork. We learned a little bit about the business, which I'm sure we could get more into, but that's kind of how
So the balance of artistic and business side, there's always that balance of really being the artist, which is the product, and then having the business skills to make this thing work. I mean, 2000, you joined the band and you were actively involved, and we performed last night with the students at the jam session. It was so great to hear the students perform, but you guys played absolutely fantastic there and inspired the students as you were playing. What drove you to kind of push yourself as a musician? Was there music in your family?
For me, it was my uncle played guitar. He's about 10 or 12 years older than me. He was someone that I always looked up to. He was a mentor for me growing up, and he played me Van Halen's Eruption when I was like 5 or 6 years old. And I told him to play it again right after he was done. And I was hooked. I've always wanted to be in a band. I never wanted to be a singer, solo artist, session guy, anything like that. I wanted to be in a band. That was my That was my goal. If you asked me what I wanted to do at 5 or 15 or 25, it's the same darn thing.
Interesting.
So I enjoy that group dynamic, and I found these guys that I knew shared those same values and goals. And a lot of our success is attributed to the fact that all 5 of us moved together forward, lock in step with the same goal, which is, to grow this thing as big as we can and to play as long as we can. And so the goals are simple. Getting to them are kind of tough.
And that's where the real skill base comes in. Are there meetings that you have, like business meetings as opposed to rehearsals? Are there ways that you guys communicate to take on the challenges of what you're going to do, right?
Yeah. Conference calls are key to what we do. I'm very happy and sometimes surprised how democratic our process really is.
Nice.
If all of us, or a majority of us really, sometimes I vote one way and the other guys vote the other way. Sometimes it's the opposite of that. Yeah. But it's literally, 5 hands in the air, you count them, and that's the way you go. But conference calls are very important. Working with the office, each guy in the band, there's 5 guys in the band. Each guy is responsible for a different aspect or division of what we do.
Nice.
Our singer Mark, he handles a lot of the label stuff, publishing, obviously the songwriting, that aspect of things. He's the guy that steers the ship, kind of says that's north and we go that way. Chris is a meticulous guy, attention to detail. He is involved with a lot of the web design stuff, making sure that all the I's and dotted T's are crossed, all those little things that I wouldn't think about or anything like that. Richard, our guitar player, is very fashionable individual, certainly the best dressed and the best hair of the band. He's in charge of the design of merchandise and our clothing and apparel, and a lot of artwork and things like that as well. Benj, our bass player, is a social guy. He's out shaking hands all the time. Everybody knows Benj. He's 7 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon. You only need 3 with Benj. So he's in charge of our social media, and he's really the voice of the band and the social media and stuff. My job, I'm a bit more business-oriented guy. I make sure, Chris put it best one time, I make sure all the plates stay spinning in the air. And all of us together, we're like a board of directors for our own company.
It's powerful. Now, is there when you have these meetings, are there specific plans that you have? So you'll direct, we need more social media, we need the website done, you'll have all this stuff done, much like the executives of any business, and you see this as a business. The bottom line, when you're on stage, it's about now performance and inspiring this audience, which you guys do so well in the process. Is the on-stage performance part, is that also just a mutual agreement, or is there just, direction by any one person? Is that?
That's really, a lot of that comes from the band and together. I mean, Mark, our singer, again, kind of steers the ship, points north, that's the way we go, but it's still, it's still all 5 of us doing our thing. We have a touring keyboard player, Michael Paris, and John Lampley, our trumpet player, that comes with us quite often as well. It's all about just entertaining folks, making them feel better when they leave than when they got there. That's the main goal. So Chris could call, how about we do this cover song or something? Sounds great. Everybody likes that idea. We go and we do that thing. Right. We figure it all out. Maybe it comes from Chris, maybe it comes from Mark, maybe it comes from another guy. Great. It's really, we are a band's band. I mean, it's really
fantastic.
There's a spontaneity, I guess, of it, the spirit that I think just from us early on, we've always just, had fun on stage, and that translates to something that's real and tangible in a way, with the crowd. It's almost like a reaction that you can feel when you have that, and I think it makes each show unique in a sense, where the audience doesn't feel like they're getting the exact version of the song that they've heard on the record, and now we're playing it live in front of them, which is cool because I've seen bands do that and I think it sounds phenomenal and I love that. But I think there's also something to be said for the way we do it and making each night completely unique and an experience. That's something you can kind of take with you when you leave, like Jerry said, that feeling of leaving feeling better than when you came. There's a positive message that we try to create, and it's something that is not just in the words, but the music, the feeling, the overall vibe. There's, I think, a pulse is the best way we try to describe it. That's what we try to do. It's what we've been inspired by. Some of our favorite music is not necessarily a song or a style or this or that. It's all about feel. That's, I think, it comes down to, it's feel. Whether
I have 3 boys. They love the band. So, I mean, I hear the feedback from them. So you obviously are succeeding in getting that message out. Was there any kind of, were you involved with different genres in your life, in your personal careers? Was jazz or funk or, where did that, I mean, you guys have a pretty wide sense of musical knowledge. Did that come from?
I think just because each member of the band has their own, kind of coming from a different place, liking all different kinds of music, and that all kind of melting together, I think gives us something that when you don't know how to exactly describe it, when you hear it, it goes, oh, well, that's O.A.R.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of cool. I think some of my favorite bands are something you immediately can identify as, oh, that's the Red Hot Chili Peppers, or oh, that's The Cure. Or, don't quite sound like anything else, and you can kind of see how, of course, they have their influences. If you go and study who you love, they've got who their influences are, but they've made it their own.
Well, you absolutely have a uniqueness in sound. Now, you mentioned the mentor, that your uncle was a mentor. Any other mentors that you had in your lives that maybe influenced you, and maybe what did they see in you?
Well, for one, I would say we got some really good advice from my dad, who's in the music business. I started playing drums because there was a drum set, his drum set in the basement. He kind of got me started on a couple beats, and so when we first started, he was still working in the music business, and he would get us, whether we needed a PA or whether we needed equipment or this or that for a gig or something. He was always there, and it was always going to be a last-minute call, and he would, of course, show up and help us out. But I think when we really started to take it seriously and know we were going to, maybe go off to school together and maybe start really attempting to do this, his advice was, don't expect anything, but be ready for anything. Right. And I think we applied that from the business side very early on, and really listened to that advice.
Great advice. Great advice. Great advice. Well, you've obviously had some great mentorship in what you did. What would you leave in closing? What would you leave individually to the next generation of kids that are out there that want to do what you guys are doing now? I mean, you guys have really moved forward.
There are no shortcuts.
There are no shortcuts.
That's what I would say. There are no shortcuts. Whether it's the music side, the time it takes to fall in love with the process of getting to be a master of your craft, just as much as the business side of things. When I was a kid playing drums in my basement, I didn't think, all right, I got to stop now and go, study up on, record deals right. and find out what mechanicals are. You don't hear those words until you're in a place where you need to kind of deal with those things, I think. But for us, that we didn't take any shortcuts on the business side. Luckily, it was a slow build for us. Nice. Kind of gave us an opportunity to learn the different areas of business in music, and we kind of use that to our advantage. Where now feel really comfortable when we have to make a record deal, when we're dealing with publishing, and when we're dealing with whatever. We have a team that we surrounded ourselves with that we're really excited about, and that I think is a huge part of our, I don't want to say brand, but that's kind of what it is these days.
Absolutely. You're prepared for the unexpected. It's what it comes down to. So what would you say to the next generation that will watch this in years to come?
I would say maintain that youthful exuberance and fire that you have when you're growing up for your craft. The fire that I had in my belly at 13 years old to be in a band still drives me today. And on my best days, I still feel it like that. On my worst days, I can't find it. So I would say find whatever, tap into that often, and you'll be okay. And show up on time. That's a big one too.
Well said.
Yeah.
We'll discuss that in the panel later on with you guys. You guys have been fantastic as musicians, as leaders of the music community in the 21st century. You guys are doing great. You're out there living your passion, and you're setting a path for other people to be inspired. They come to the shows, they're moved, and you're doing exactly what music is supposed to do. You're making a difference, and you guys are doing that so great.
Wow, thank you.
On behalf of the sessions, we thank you guys so much. Let's go out there. We're going to hit the panel now with several hundred people in the room. Let's go get them and have some fun.
Thanks,
Jerry, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chris, thanks so much. Great job.
That's cool.